In this video, we will see how to interact with S3 from Nifi instances. So let's go into the demo. We see how many processors are available to interact with S3, which means AWS S3. I'm not going to explain about AWS S3 much in this video, but I will try to explain in another series when I start a AWS tutorial. But for now, I assume that our viewers have idea about AWS S3, which is Amazon Web Services and simple storage object. So let's start with the process group. Drag a process group and name it as S3 AWS S3 demo. Go into this processor group and then drag a processor and type S3 here. These are the 5 S3 related processors that are available in Nifi. As the name obviously says, first here it's list. It will list all the objects in the S3 and it will create a flow file for each objects that are in S3 location that is mentioned over here. And then this object will fetch the contents that are listed by the previous one, retrieves the contents from whatever it is listed in the S3. And if you want to put an object in S3 location, we're going to use this and then delete. And then if you want to tag an S3 location, we can use this tag S3 object. These are the 5 that are available related to S3. And if you want to see regarding Amazon Web Services or AWS, you can click here. These are the 27 processors that are available. Along with S3, we will have many other services that we can interact with. For example, here it is Kinesis, DynamoDB, Poly, text extraction, transcribe. These are the AI related services in AWS, and DynamoDB, which is NoSQL, and Simple Queue services, SQS, and also API Gateway, CloudWatch Metrics, DynamoDB, Lambda, and SNS. These are the few services that we can interact with Nifi. And especially when coming to S3, these are the 5 processors that are available. Let's start with the list S3. I can select list S3 and then add, zoom a little bit. So if you hover on the warning symbol, bucket is invalid. We have to mention the bucket name at least. Configure. So my region, I have a bucket in region US East 1, Northern Virginia. Click OK. And the bucket name is 3125 Nifi source 1, which I do already have that bucket over here in my S3 bucket. And that's the minimum 2 things that I need to mention. And one more thing need to mention is if you want to talk to AWS, we have to have AWS credentials that need to be mentioned. The access key and secret access key that need to be mentioned. So click on apply. Right now, only the relationship success is invalid. Okay, let's drag a funnel here and connect the list S3 to this funnel. Right. And then we are good to start this process. There is no warning symbols. Start it. I'm expecting an error here because we didn't provide any credentials to this processor. Refresh. If it's over here, it says failed to list contents of the bucket. So bucket is good, but it is failed to list that contents because there is a 403 authorization error and it gives the request IDs of the S3. So in this case, we know what's the reason. I didn't mention any AWS credentials for this processor. Let's provide that. Let's stop the processor and then configure. And then if you scroll a little bit here, you can see an access ID. You can directly mention over here. or secret access key. These two are the mandatory things that you need to provide. Or else you want to refer a credential file. There are many ways that we can connect to S3, either direct access key and secret access key, or we can connect with a credential file or AWS credential service provider. Right now, we're gonna use AWS credential service provider. If you click on this, right now there is no values. Create a new service, add in AWS credential provider controller service. Scroll it, create it. Or if you want to create a new one, create new, just you can name it anything. My S3 credentials. Create it. And then you want to configure it, save it. So if you see here, my S3 credentials is created here, but however, it is in disabled state. We're gonna go to the settings, and in these settings, if you see, you have to provide the same access key and secret access key over here. Right now, I know my access key and secret access keys. Let me get those things. I have it here. These are very sensitive values. If anyone has these keys, we can have access to the full access to your buckets. Whatever the policies that are attached to this role will have full access. So we should not share this to anyone. Once this is configured, we have to enable this by going to this symbol. And this controller service is attached to list S3 processor. It's enabled. Go back. Now this error is at 1540. Let's start this. Refresh. We don't see any new error. Last error is at 1540, so we are good. And also we can see there are three files in the S3 bucket, and those three files are in this queue. If you hover on this, we can see all the three files that are in the flow files in the queue. So we are good. Now we can tag these three buckets. Let's tag these three buckets. Type on S3 and then use tag S3 objects, add, connect this, and configure. At this moment, we already have the file name will be get from the earlier processor, and bucket name. We have it here. The bucket is in US East 1. We have to select the region for sure. And then credential service provider. We already have a credential service provider, which is my Nifi S3 credential. Click select that and then apply. We are good, except the tag key and name. Because we are tagging it, we have to provide the tag key and value, which is mandatory things. So I'm naming it as a channel name. So key value pair, and append the tag is true. Okay. Right now we have only the relationship errors. Connect it on success. Connect it on failure. So let's start this, refresh, and all three are success. If you go to the bucket, all the three objects were tagged now with that tag value that I provided. If you see here, name TTK will be added to all these three objects. Right. Even if you can see here, if we go to the tags, name equal to TTK will be appended. So that's how the tag S3 will work. Now let's use fetch objects. drag a processor over here, S3, fetch object, connect this funnel to fetch object. In the same approach, we have to mention the bucket name, source 1, and then the region, and then the credential provided somewhere. Apply. And same, success, failure. And start it. So we should see 3 here in the success. Now the 3 files got fetched. If you list queue, all the 3 files got fetched from here. Let's put these files in a different location and then delete them. Okay. Let's drag a processor, use PutS3, drag these 2 things. Let's configure file name. We're going to put in new S3 bucket. And then region. And then the credential provider. My Nifi S3 credential. We are good, except with the relationships. As usual, we're gonna failure to this, success to this. I'm using the funnels because I can decide later what processor I need to use down the lane. So that's the reason. So let's start this. So we should see 3 files in the success queue. So when I go back and check in the new bucket, I see all the 3 files that are copied from the source bucket. And then I can delete those things as well. Drag a processor, delete. Type S3, it's simple. Delete object. And then configure that objects. File name is, we already know that. And then we need to say bucket name, which is source. As soon as I copy it to destination, I'm deleting in source. And then the region over here. And the credential provider. Apply. Then drag, add. We are good with this processor except with the relationships as usual. I'm dragging this to failure. I'm connecting this to success. Okay, now it is good to start. Start the processor. And you see all the 3 are queued up here. List queue, all the 3 files are here. By this time, it should delete in the source. Let's go to the source. And then refresh here. It's deleted. So that's how you can move from one S3 location to another S3 location. Either it's a copy or move. We can use this functionality all together. All the combining all the S3 process that we have, we can achieve those either copy or move between the S3 buckets. Hope this tutorial is helpful and you got good understanding about what are the Nifi processors that are available to interact with S3 and how we can copy and move between S3 buckets using Nifi. Thank you. Thank you very much.